everybody, and welcome to the FFL Solidity podcast. It is episode 22. Today is March 29th of 2023, and I have Miss Heather Robeson on with me today. Super excited to have her on with me today, and not to steal her shine, but each and every week I sit back and think, who would be a good person to have on the call? And Heather, you do a lot of things great, but one thing you're really great at is keeping a positive attitude, even through the high highs and through the low lows, and really kind of being able to level up each and every month. And, that's why, I have you on with us today. So without further ado, Heather, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. I really appreciate you doing this. And I love our group. I really love you guys. You do so much to help us along the way. So
Hey,
the major part of what you're going to ask, the answer is you two. Just saying ahead of time.
Hey, well, ahead of time, the answer is you did the work, but we appreciate you so much and just super excited to have you on with me today. And just to hit it off, Heather, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you were doing before Family First Life, and kind of what got you involved with Family First Life.
So it's kind of a long story. I'll try to keep it brief, but I knew nothing of the insurance industry except for the fact that my husband passed away when my kids were 4. I was 37, and thank the good Lord we had life insurance. That's all I knew. That's all I knew. I had a very good life insurance agent who helped me through the death and recuperating after that. And to this day, he's still my agent, which is kind of funny. I wouldn't want to take that from him. That's actually how I look at it. How I got into it, I was teaching in public schools. I was a health and PE teacher for 3 years. I decided to get out of the public school system, take my kids out of the system, and I homeschooled them from home. During that time, I still had to make money. So I became a teacher online to Chinese students across the world. That was great. I did that for another 3 years. 3 years seems to be my magic number. And after that 3 years, China decided we don't want American teachers anymore. So you have until the end of the summer and you're done. At that time, we were also moving from Connecticut all the way to El Paso, Texas. So I had to, first of all, I have to have something flexible. I've got kids that I teach at home. I had to be flexible because we were moving across the country. So I started door dashing. I door dashed for a good few months, and I had a friend in the industry, and she was doing well at the time. She was doing really well, had lots of kids, and she took care of them by herself. And I was like, how does she do it? So I asked her. That was at the beginning of the summer. And she gave me the link with the free, training and all that. I looked at it and I was like, heck no, there's no time for this. Right? That was like in May of that year. By September, when they told us, you can't be a teacher anymore, I didn't want to go back to the public schools. I said, I think I need to check into this further. So I texted her again and I was like, could you give me that link again? And basically the link was what it was. It was, the link that you guys give out for training, for the licensing. Logged on and told the boys, I have twin boys. I said, you guys have to just let me study for a week. That's all I need is 1 week. Just let me study. I didn't know what I was getting into at all. I knew nothing, like nothing. And I studied. I passed after 5 days of studying. I made them take the dogs upstairs. Like our house was just completely quiet. Passed. I don't even know what my score was. Don't even care. And from there on, it was a little slow at first because with moving, we were renovating our new house. I was also getting married last year. So the first 4 months of the year was just kind of making it, pulling along the best that I could.
Awesome. Well, Heather, you have quite a story in terms of your background story and kind of what got you into the industry. And as much as that loss, is terrible, it showed the importance of life insurance to you. And it's probably one of the main reasons that you kept looking into the industry, because you knew how important that was for you and for the family at the time that, you guys needed it most, so to say. And I love the fact that you were willing to do different things to make sure that your kids are in the best position, right? You said you pulled them out of public school. You brought, you want to homeschool them. They're still homeschooled. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Like,
They're doing it now.
check you out. They're doing it now. Meanwhile, you're in the middle of doing work, telesales, podcasts, you name it, right? So you're able to have that flexibility, but you had to give up a lot to get there, right? Well, you said the first time you looked at the pre-licensing course, you were like, this is cool, but I'm all set, right?
Yeah, it did take something pretty big for me to just jump in. It was, honestly.
And you think the move had a lot to do with that?
It was huge because, well, it was the move and losing my job. Like I didn't have many choices. Sure, I
Right.
could have. I mean, we initially had thought, me and the kids, we'll just DoorDash across the United States to get to El Paso, because what else was I supposed to do, right?
And that says a lot about you too, and also a lot about the boys, right? Like they're willing to be there with mom, like by your side. And I just love that because every step of the way, Heather, it's not just about you. It's never about you. It's about you and it's about your family. And then I just love to see that. And even just like you said, you needed flexibility, you needed, you needed certain things that you had in that other position, but you weren't, that position was gone, right? So you were able to say, like, you know what, we have to do something. So I'm going to DoorDash. And then you were like, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get the license. You got your license, you said, get the distractions away from me, and you jumped into it. And was it scary in the beginning for you?
No, because and one of the things you say all the time is, what are your non-negotiables? It was non-negotiable for me to be working. I had no idea the money potential. Didn't care. It had to be similar, or I thought it was going to be similar to a normal job, right? What do I know? Well, I knew nothing. I'm not even lying when I said I knew nothing. So was it scary? No, because I've been in worse situations.
Absolutely. And guess what, Heather? You always get yourself out,
You do.
right?
So changing a whole career, right?
Like
Like,
I've been shaking
cares?
big. I've been shaking bigger, right?
Right.
But so far happy to be here, happy you're in the industry and doing well.
It's honestly truthful that after about 3 years, I tend to switch positions of some sort. But it's funny how when you're at convention or you hear people on podcasts, what is the magic number you typically hear? 3 years, right?
Yeah.
So to me, I'm like, okay, right? 3 years, that's only one more year for me. We're going to be good to go, right? And if 3 years from there, that means we're in a position where my husband and I, my new husband, can retire and we can move forward in our life together, then that's pretty cool. Right?
Absolutely. You're like, I'm all in, and you've been all in since. So Heather, coming in when you first got started, and you'd be the first person to admit it, like, you kind of were like, you said, you're like, I didn't really know a whole lot of what was going on, but you were at annual convention, right?
I was
So
that
both
first
years,
year.
right?
Yep,
So
yep,
that was your first one, which was 2021, if I'm doing the math correctly.
yep.
Okay, perfect. Because my math isn't that great. However, going there, and I feel like when you came out, and correct me if I'm wrong, you were like, I can do this, right? And you started to
Yeah,
like dive in.
it was really weird because I didn't know anybody. I knew Angela, and I knew that was about it. And I stayed with a group of people. My daughter came and one of my sons, and my husband stayed. He wasn't my husband at the time; he was my fiance. One of my sons and my husband stayed home, I think. Yeah, because we were very new at this. And then the convention, I left that and I was like, holy mackerel, this is bigger than I even imagined. Right. Then I got home, Marisa, and I got sick. I think I got the COVID. I didn't take the test, but I got it so bad I was out for 2 weeks straight. Now, when you come home from convention and your head is ready to roll, right? And then you're stuck in bed. And I don't get stuck in bed often. Like, I don't have time for that. It just put between that and the wedding coming up, it just put the brakes on everything. It didn't matter. It didn't matter because I had the mindset. I kept with the trainings. I kept listening. I kept I don't have a choice. I didn't have a choice. So, even 2 weeks is just like in our business, 2 weeks is a huge stoppage, right? So I was careful enough to listen to everybody. Paul was not detrimental, what's the word? Incremental. Yeah, instrumental. He was instrumental in my mindset at that time, listening to him, his faith and everything about the business, to where I was like, okay, I'm setting a date, because our wedding was April. We had everybody coming. But I'm setting May 1st. I have to make this work. I don't have a choice, right?
Right.
So between convention and then the May 1st date was getting ready. It was getting the whole family ready. It was getting the office ready. It was getting my mindset ready. Everything.
And I love how you say that too, like the getting the family ready, because it's so important. And, as you know, I'm not married, I don't have kids, yet anyways.
Yeah.
However, being able to rally around your family and say, hey, this is what mom's doing to better the situation of the family, and to see everybody kind of rally around you. I think that's really important to have those conversations, right? Because it's like, I remember when I was younger, Heather, and my mom worked 2 jobs, but she explained to me, why she worked 2 jobs, why mom wasn't going to be home after school every day. And, and I remember like that was important, because I then understood like mom's working hard so that I can have a better life. Right. So I love that you involve your family so much. I think that that's so important. But with that being said, you made a lot of changes coming out of from convention to now, right? So like we had a whole other convention since then, and every single month it seems like you're on an up and up. What do you think are some of the biggest changes, or some of the things that you did that really have helped you be on that, level and, healthy up and up?
You really, there's so many things. One thing is you have to listen. You really have to listen, because you can hear, or you can listen, but you have to hear what people are saying. Mm-hmm. What people are saying is real, and it applies to absolutely every person that would want to listen. And I keep listening. I mean, I told you this morning, I've got to listen to these people, because you listen and something new comes out of every little thing that you listen to, if you're hearing them. And so every month I'm very proud of myself. I increase monthly, and that's from the time I started, which is kind of really cool to see. I track now like more than, I still don't track enough, but I track more than I did in the beginning. Activity is important. Sometimes activity is very hard when you're at a higher level and you've got, mom duties and wife duties and self duties and then work duties and all those things. And you've got to make sure you get the time in, and how you pay attention to that's important too. I think that's very important, of things that I've tried to change, or not change, but get better at I guess it's getting better at, and staying positive. That's a hard one. Sometimes
talk to us a little bit about that particularly. Like, even if you want to talk about an experience you had that maybe was a low for you, right? And how you pulled yourself out, or maybe it was a high and you got to make sure you didn't get too high. Talk to us a little bit about how you stay positive, how you stay well-rounded and well-grounded with so many different hats and roles going on, within your life.
Well, I don't always. I literally had a blowout with my kids this morning because I was overwhelmed.
But that shows how honest you are. I just want to throw that out there, right?
But I did apologize to them and explain to them, Mondays are my hardest days, Mondays and Thursdays, of which case, how do I stay grounded? How do I do this? I have my family, honestly. And you guys are part of that family, which is why I said you'd be, in this conversation. Because if you don't have people, and I'm talking my kids, my husband is, even though you don't ever see him, he makes dinner every Mondays and Thursdays. Why? Because those are my biggest days. I am working all day, and whatever that work is, and he gets that, and he wants me to be able to do that. My kids, Like this morning, the blowout was I have a bird. My bird poop was all over the place. And I was like, God, please let me clean up. I don't have time for this, right? We all have a normal life. Whether you've got kids or not, it doesn't matter. You've got a life. And the biggest thing that keeps me grounded is God. I know not everybody believes in God, and I don't care. Praying to him whenever I need help is huge for me. At convention, Paul gave us a journal. I've never journaled like this before, ever. I've started journaling since the Monday after we came home, and I have not missed a single day, no matter what. It's a small amount of time, but just to write what I'm grateful for, what my hopes are for that day. And they have to be real hopes that actually I can accomplish. It's not, it doesn't revolve around somebody else, because that's not my failure, right? And then what did you accomplish, or what was a good part of the day at the end of the day? And 9 times out of 10 days, God will be part of that, because I can't live without talking to him however many times a day. I can't even count it.
Absolutely.
So staying positive is part of, having that family, and God is part of that.
Absolutely. And I'm wholeheartedly with you there. And, I love how you talked about, people can hear you, but they're not hearing you, right? People, like, it's like when I was like a kid, like my mom, I'd be like, yeah, Mom, I heard you clean my room. And then like, she'd come in and it wasn't clean, right? Like I heard her, but I wasn't listening, right?
That was our bathroom this morning.
Hey, it's still applicable, right? So with that being said, I love how you talked about, you really have to be listening to learn. You're not listening for attendance purposes. You're listening because you're trying to get better or learn a new skill set, so to say. And I love that you hop on every single call. You're plugged in. You show up to the trainings. Your activity is there. You make sure you're scheduling everything with family and things like that. Everything's scheduled so that you try your best to not have a bump in the road. And if you do, it's not as bumpy because you had it all planned out and laid out, right? And I also loved how you talked about your family, right? Like that's huge, like how they take a big role in terms of what you're doing too, because the support, right? From your husband cooking dinner Monday and Thursday, that's huge. He understands the assignment, right? He's like, got it. Like Heather's not gonna be able to cook dinner tonight. That's on my to-do list. And same thing with the boys, right? Like, be helping you with snacks, things like that, to make sure, because they know mom's at work, right?
So fill my water bottle all the time.
There we go. They make sure that you are hydrated. So I love that. And then, in terms of like activity, right? In the beginning, was that something that was difficult for you? Or do you feel like you kind of were able to just be like, okay, I know I need to just keep moving? What did that look like for you?
So, I've always been telesales. I know you guys love it, but you hate it.
I love that you love it.
And I'll never be anything other than that, because I am a mom who's always worked from home. I owned a home daycare. When I worked at the schools for 3 years, I didn't love it at all. So I'll always work from home. Activity wise at the beginning was hard because, when I did own the daycare, the kids would show up at 6 o'clock and they'd leave at 6 o'clock. It was easy. I could take care of them. They're right there. Right. And even when I taught English to the Chinese students, I had to be on at 3 o'clock in the morning, be off at 7 o'clock in the morning, be on at 5 o'clock at night, be off at 9 o'clock at night, right? Like that was the schedule. We don't have a schedule. So the dial days help me in a sense, because I know I have to be on at 8 o'clock my time. I know it's later at your time, but at 8 o'clock, I have to be there, and I have to be there until you shut it off. And to get that mindset that that's what it was going to be, was a little slow. And then managing what I do in that time was a little difficult at first too, because I get my emails in and it's from a carrier and I need to answer that. And I need to, do things that aren't doing what needs to be done. But as you listen and you hear people say, are they money-making activities? Right? Very important, because during that time, I should be making my money by calling people. The other stuff, yes, they kind of make money, but it can wait until noon or 2 o'clock, whatever your time is. Right? And I mean, you have to be careful because carriers close. And if I'm on the mountain time, carriers close earlier than they do for you. So I have to manage that. So you put that in your schedule. So the managing that time was very difficult for me at first, and activity. And I've told you before, I'm a slow learner. like I have to fail too many times to succeed. But you know what? It's what works.
And I don't think that you're a slow learner. I actually think that anything that you learn, you take it in and like you actually learn it, right? Because there's things like, we can be like, oh yeah, I learned that, like in high school, like calculus, right? Somebody puts a calculus equation in front of me, I'll be like, yeah, I don't remember, right? But you remember, you're on top of it. So you're not taking days off. You're moving and grooving, which I love. So you're taking your schedule serious, just like you talked about. You always work from home. So you have like almost that hat on of like, even though I'm home, it doesn't mean I'm not working, right? Because daycare, you were doing teaching online and it was at different hours of the night, etc. So you're not unfamiliar with working from home. Now, so that part didn't really bother you or the family. It actually, you probably like it, right? That's why they're doing telesales, right? Which I love. And that's the beauty of this industry. There's so many ways to do it, right, Heather? But with that being said, how have you learned to be able to, like you were talking about, the carriers, that almost be able to filter it and say, this is important, this isn't important, this is important, this isn't important. Like when you're going through your day, like what does that look like, I guess?
Typically, from the beginning, it was hard, but over time, I've learned basically just by listening and hearing what people say, what's important. You don't often hear somebody on a podcast talking about the mundane admin stuff. We just don't. I feel like we learn that as we go, but it's a hard learn sometimes on how to manage the little stuff that comes with the great, oh, we got a sale, we protected a family and all that. We tend to not dig about the little yucky stuff that, kind of gets in our way. It really does. And so over time, I have adjusted to that. And I'm not going to lie, I did, thank the good Lord, and I've got to hire him full time. I did finally get an admin.
Yeah. So talk to us about that and why you got that admin.
So it did start with my kids. I do homeschool them, so they started working with me. And that was helpful. I pay them they were at 1%. They're now at 4% of my IP for the month. So yes, it is. Now when I'm doing well, right? There was a time when they had to pay me. No, just kidding. But it got to the point where the more you help people, the more you're protecting people, the more of that mundane stuff comes in. And it was at convention when we had to ask people questions for the competition. One of my questions was for Steve Giordano, and I had to catch him in the hallway as he was running to the elevator. So I ran with him. How do you know when is the right time to do something that you're not really sure that you know that you need to do? And in that point, my head was, I didn't want to tell him what I was thinking, but my point was hiring staff. And to me, a staff would be admin. I don't even know the rules. What does that mean? But to me, it was, I needed help more than what my kids could give me.
Right.
In that sense, for work. They can't call carriers. They can't, they just don't have time. They're homeschooled. They do have school, So his answer was very simple but effective. It was simply, you want to make sure you do that before you need it. And at that point, I was like, holy smokes, I need to get this done, because I felt like I needed it already. And so I had to make sure I fit it in my budget. I had to make sure that even if I were to hire somebody, and then who do I hire, right? So what did I do? I asked around, and you guys were very helpful in that as well. And that's where I got my admin from. And he's very new. I mean, they weren't even doing part-time admins at the time. They kind of developed it and then messaged me because I had a dialer first. So that was kind of cool. It worked out. I don't know if they did it for me or not. That'd be kind of weird if they did, but they they do have part-time admins now, and I love mine. However, the fact of the matter is I think I'm moving towards more of a full-time admin, because he gets done after 3 hours and I'm like, oh gosh, I could use
you're like, you're done already, right? Yeah. Can you stay? Right.
Yeah. And I do. One time last week I was like, can I just pay him for 2 more hours? And the CSM was like, yeah, sure. And I was like, oh, thank God. Right. So I think that the Steve was right. He said you have to do it before you actually need it. Right. And so if you're starting to think you need something, then you probably do and make it work. It'll help you.
That's huge. And I love how you didn't hesitate. You went out, you got that admin, you got it done. And you were also getting help from the boys too. But like you said, you needed a bit more than that, right? Like you needed.
Yeah, and I didn't fire my kids. Don't worry.
No, I know you didn't. Yeah, they would call me and tell me, no.
Yeah, I do.
And I was like, give them the job back. No. However, you still have that help, but you have help from an actual admin now, which is great. So they're doing different things for you, almost those mundane tasks that have to be done on our end, but take a lot of our time through sometimes those money-making, hours, right? So it's been awesome to see that. And I love how, Steve said, if you're thinking about it, like do it before you need it. And then you were like, okay, I need this. Like, I'm going to do it now because I already need it, right?
Almost like he was talking to me without him knowing that he was talking to me.
Right. He was like, but he gave that answer, like you said, just off the rip, and it worked, and it was what you needed to hear at that time, right? And then just to kind of hit on this too, telesale world, right? Mm-hmm. So as you know, I'm predominantly boots on the ground. However, I love telesales. I think that it works every single way, hybrid, telesale, in-home, you pick your way, right? And your way is telesale. Now, with that being said, Heather, do you think that there was a longer learning curve for you? Or do you feel like, do you think there was a longer learning curve for you versus if you went into homes? And if so, why? And how do you feel like people can move that telesale learning curve faster? What are some tools that they could use, or give some insight there? Because Heather, you went from helping, a couple families a month to helping 20 plus families a month to in this month probably helping 30 or 40 plus families in the month, right? So you're doing something right on that up and up trend, right? So talk to us a little bit about that.
I'm going to be honest. I don't think that there's a big difference. I know everybody thinks that there is. The only difference I can say, do I think it would have been different me going in home? No, I think I would have been miserable, honestly. So for somebody who has no in-home experience, forget the people who have in-home experience, because that's a different mindset, right? If you want to go to telesales, yes, there's going to be learning. Yes, you're going to suck. Yes, it's going to suck. Yes, it's going to be different. But if you are hiring somebody who only wants to do telesales, they have to make it work if they want to make it work. It's what you want and what your needs are for you and your family. So do I think it took me longer because I was telesales? I would argue to say no. I know a lot of people in home would say yes. I think it has to do with your activity 100%. If you are going to 40 appointments on the phone or in home, you're going to get the same numbers that everybody else gets. But if you're only going to 10 on the phone, you're going to get the same number as somebody going to 10 houses, right? And your personality really doesn't have anything to do with it, because everybody's personality is different. And one person I call might not like me or how I talk with them, but you call them on the phone and they might like you. It's the same thing as you going into their house. So I honestly don't think and maybe it's because I'm defending telesales, I don't know, but I'm I'm not saying this to like gloat or anything, but I can kick ass on the phones. I don't know if I
Absolutely.
can say that out loud, but I can, but I can also suck on the phones.
Right.
So if you're not on the phone, that's when you're failing.
I love that. That's huge because that's the truth. And really, Heather, what I heard you say is like my activity didn't necessarily change. I just kept with the schedule that I knew was supposed to work. I followed it. I did the work because you're not scared of work, right? That's the biggest thing. If you're scared of work, telesales is not going to work because you're never going to pick the phone up. So just like you said, like you're not scared to pick the phone up, right? The only time you're losing is when you don't pick the phone up. It's equivalent to setting in home appointments and then not going to the house, right? Like you know, it's a you're shooting yourself in the foot. So the reason why I feel, or one of the reasons why I feel that you have been able to just grow through telesales is because you recognize that you're an adult. This is your job. This is your business at the end of the day. You want to see it grow. You want to see it win. You know it's going to win. So you're willing to put the work into it. And you know that it's going to be like, if you could think back from a year, you know, even just a year ago, right, to today, it's like things looked a lot different for you than they do now, right? And that's because all of the activity. I always say every dial you make, every person you talk to, every home you go into, or every presentation that you do, your skill just gets that much better and better and better. But if you don't pick up the phone, just like you said, you have nothing to work on, right? There's nothing there, nothing to go off of. So I love the fact that you really just said like activity wins at the end of the day. Activity's always going to win. So if you're not scared of hard work, you can do telesales, right? But you have to be committed to that schedule, committed to lead flow as well, right? Which you're very committed to. Committed to following that schedule and just committed to growth, right? Like, do you feel like you've grown a lot as a person throughout this year, just through what you've been through in the business?
Absolutely.
And
And I don't want to say it's in a bad way. I haven't had, changed to who I am at all. I've definitely grown. And I know it sounds redundant, but us as a family, we've grown too. I mean, activity, as we were just talking about, a year ago, I certainly wasn't in my office, and I don't love being in my office. Sometimes I take it out to my pool because I just can't stand being in here all day.
wow,
But
life is hard. You take it out to
right.
the pool. I
and
haven't.
then even like Saturdays, I didn't used to, do anything or work, or Sundays certainly. But recently I've decided, or I shouldn't say we, I'll be like, my husband will say, well, are you making calls today or whatever? And I'll be like, I felt guilty about it at first, real guilty, right? But then he kept supporting me and saying, well, just go work. Go work. I wanna buy motorcycle parts. Go work, whatever it was. And so I would come in and I'd feel guilty at first, but now it's if I don't, if I'm not hitting my numbers by the end of Thursday or Friday, I say to myself, well, then I won't, I'll have to work on Saturday. I work on Saturday no matter what, so it doesn't matter. But on Saturday, I'm getting text messages and phone calls that I'm making, scheduling for, guess what? Sunday. Now I do schedule for after church and I do spend time with my family. So don't get me wrong. It's just a different lifestyle if you want to make the money. You have to put in the activity. So you have to find that time. I go to the gym with my kids during the week. I do stuff with I don't log on until 8 o'clock my time, though I should be at 6 o'clock if I was being on, really, and I could. But from 6 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock is husband time and my exercise time. I shouldn't, I've got to stick to my values and stay with that unless it's not working, right? If I don't see myself increasing, then what do I need to change? How do I need to adapt? And I think that's a big thing too, is adaptability in this telesales world.
Absolutely. And that's one thing, Heather, I feel like you don't ever shy away from, right? Like, you're like me. I feel like you're like, okay, like if you don't get it or you need more clarity, you're just like, hey, like what's going on? Or like, hey, like you said, if it's not working and you're putting in more activity, then it's what can I be doing better? What do I need to tweak, adjust, change? And you're not a person who shies away from reaching out, which is awesome, by the way. That's why we're like family. But you reach out to different people, right? And one thing too, Heather, is it's one thing to reach out to people and ask for their opinion, their advice, and get it. It's another thing to reach out to people, ask for their opinion and advice, and not implement it, right? Like then you're wasting everybody's time, including yours, right? And theirs, which just isn't fair.
Then they get frustrated with you. They don't want to talk to you.
Exactly. And then it's like, they say, well, I would change ABC, and then you don't change it. It's like, they don't want to talk to you. It's like, take a hike, bye, right? However, if you implement that and you're able to be like, hey, I implemented this, and now you're seeing different tweaks and adjustments. And is it usually just those small things, Heather, right? Whether it's a phone.
I mean, my numbers have increased monthly, so it has to be.
Exactly. Right? And you can't even point to one thing and be like, it was because of this. No, it was because you worked hard, right? You worked through that learning curve.
And I think that's the biggest thing, is that hearing what people are saying, right?
Exactly.
Right back to that. I listen, I hear, and I implement what I'm hearing.
I love that. Exactly. Because we can listen or listen and even hear, but not implement, and it doesn't matter. So I love that. I love that so much. And you're definitely implementing, and you take things from so many different people, which is great. Because you have like a bag of like different family first, like, like tools. You just like have it on your back. You know what I mean? You're like, well, this person told me this, and Ryan Reynolds said this, so I love it. Because you get so much help from so many different people, but it's not like you're reaching out because you want to bother 5 people. You're reaching out because you want 5 people's opinions, because you're ready to implement some big changes in your business. So I love that. And then just to kind of wrap the call up, Heather, two questions. First is, you talked a lot about your family, and I think that that's important, because when you came in, like, I knew how important your family is to you. Like, I'm not confused about that at all. And I'm very happy to be, a part of that, by the way. Love you guys. But talk to me a little bit about what that's looked like for your family. How Family First Life and your work ethic here at Family First Life has helped change, what it looks like for you and your family today.
In reality, my family has adapted very well to the demands of this job. It's really demanding because they see the good things coming out of it. Can I tell a little story?
Yes, please do.
Okay. So part of the things that I struggle with, and I think a lot of people struggle with, is money, right? And our family, we moved across the country. We bought a new house here. We bought a camper to move here. We bought stuff for the wedding. We had a wedding where everybody came across the country to be here. The bills were racking up. I'm not going to lie, right? And it's scary when you can't pay them off. And I think it's important for the world, or whoever's listening to this, to know that there are people in your situation. I'm not living under the bridge, thank God. I feel for those people, and I try to take care of them if I can, which now I can do more than I could a year ago or 3 months ago, right? So my family has definitely adapted, because they see what we've gone through and how we can help other people. Now we can, our credit cards are now down to 3 credit cards instead of 7 or more. Like, I think maybe there was 9. But those are important things that they see happening. Still not enough motorcycle parts for the husband, but I'm getting there. But I get, I have to pay for homeschool for my kids. There's a class that they do. And I said to them, today when I was losing my mind this morning, I hope you guys didn't see me on the Zoom, but I literally was losing my mind. And I said, I have to work. I cannot be cleaning up bird poop. You guys need to get out of bed and take care of this. You need to do this, because you know how important it is that we do this. I've got to pay for your school, and they knew it. They knew they screwed up, right? The husband, he's, out of school. How can I help you today? Because he knows that the bills are going to get paid by me doing my job, right? And it's not a bad thing in any of our views, none of our views. It did a little bit, was hard at first, because I had to adapt to not doing it all. letting them do some things, especially, taking care of the kids and having my husband take them to an eye doctor. Like, oh yeah, you can do that.
Right.
You can make dinner. How about that? Right. So giving that up was a little bit of an adaptation for myself. And that kind of has developed over the past year as well for all of us.
I love that because, like you said, the family really saw essentially the assignment, right? They saw, and then they saw the results. And then with the results, they're saying, okay, like mom's doing everything that she can and mom's getting it done, like she said she was gonna. So we're gonna stand behind mom and we're gonna make sure we can help her get it done, right? So
Yeah.
I love that, just seeing kind of everybody, rally together. And I also love how you brought up like, there are people in your situation, right? Like no matter who you are right now, like there's people in your situation, whether it's good, bad, indifferent. But like you said, that are under a bridge, right? And like you said, you want to give back to those people. And Heather, one thing I always seen in you and that you always bring up is donating. Like you're huge on it. You love giving back. And I think that's important too, because even the fact that your family's behind you there of let's give back because, I've been in situations where I couldn't give back, and that's not a good feeling, right? So when you're in that seat of we can give back, it's huge not only for you and the people you're helping, but also for your family. The example that you're setting for your children, right? Like no doubt in my mind, your twins are gonna grow up and they're gonna be like the two like smartest individuals that like have ever walked planet Earth because they've just seen so much and they're just so well above their years. And I just love that they rally around you. And essentially, like you said, like this morning, there was a little incident. You got a little upset. Like that's normal. We're all people, right?
It was a lot.
But
There was a lot upset.
but you diffuse,
I
right?
did.
And that's the important thing that you can bring yourself back down to reality and be like, hey, it's not the end of the world. The morning was a little bit rocky, but here we are, right?
Right.
So
And the great part is they're such good kids. They really are great kids. They come in and they're like, oh, your podcast is coming up, Mom. Are you ready? Do you need anything? Right? Like that's incredible. They're 13 years old. You know what I mean?
absolutely. Like where
That's
else are
awesome.
you, what else are you gonna be doing if the kids are coming in like, hey, like yeah, exactly. And they stand behind you. So I love that so much. And then just to kind of wrap up the call, Heather, what are your goals to close out 2023, being that we're almost, now one quarter through, which is crazy to think about.
It's crazy, but what's crazier is me at this time last year, I was nowhere near what I am right now. And at the beginning of this year in January before convention, I was thinking, I really want to go across that stage this year. I really want to. Now, after convention, and even, it's only, we have 1 week of March left, or half a week actually. The knowledge about how to do that, how to go about it is so incredible. Again, it's a listening thing. You have to hear what people are saying to understand how to get to that point. And I don't think there's a problem with me getting on that stage. As a matter of fact, I told my husband, I said, I said, well, they changed the convention place. I said, it's now in Dallas and I've got to buy the tickets next week. So I'm buying one for you because I will be crossing that stage. So be ready because I will be up there. And so my goal is definitely to do that. Now, I want to kind of stick in there that is on my own pen. However, my biggest goal this year is to try to figure out how to do better at hiring agents and growing an agency because I really want this cool logo that I've designed. So those are my two goals.
Absolutely. And Heather, there's not one shadow of a doubt in my mind that you will absolutely be walking across that stage with a red jacket on, by the way, meaning you helped over 400 families in the year because you are tracking that. That's where you're
I
at, no
am.
doubt. And you're
And
only
I
gonna
had
get
to catch up to do that. That's the incredible part. I had to catch up to do that.
and the thing is too, you're only going to get better as the months go on, right? So that's the good news, right? So no doubt you're going to hit that. I'm excited it's going to be out in Dallas too, a little bit closer to you guys, which is always good. And then in terms of also on the recruiting and building side, it's like everybody's a little bit different and everybody wants to work with somebody for different reasons, right? It could be, for example, you're a mom, right? If I would be wanting to work with you to be very transparent. It could be, it could be anything. But really, Heather, what I know is that you work really hard. What you do is duplicatable. You care about other people, not only your clients, but your agent's success as well. And you pour into them as much as you possibly can. And you're always plugged in. The last one too, always plugged in. If your upline isn't plugged in, like that's weird. Like it's almost like, why aren't you plugged in? Can you help me understand? Right. So Heather, with that being said, I know that you are going to blow up this year. All it takes is just those couple of people that come in, and you already have some people up, moving, running. You guys are running a good pace and a good race. So I'm excited for what's to come for your group here in 2023. No doubt you're going to have that logo. I can see it in my head right now, and it's beautiful. So we already, we already visualized that and spoke it into existence. But so if anybody, is listening to this and thinking, hey, I want to learn more about the company, more about what it is that we do, reach out to Heather directly. We're going to drop her Instagram handle below. So DM her, call her, text her, however, her profile says. But guys, get to know people, get to learn about other opportunities. There's so many different opportunities in this industry. And if you don't hear everybody out, you're kind of losing. So Heather, thank you so much for helping on with us today. Anything else before we wrap up?
No, I just think that everybody needs to just take a breath, think about what they want to do, but don't think too hard. Just do it. Just do it.
Don't think, just do. Think about what you want to do and then just get there, right? Love it. Heather, thank you so much for being on with us today. I truly appreciate it. Guys, make it a great rest of the day. Like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you next week. Take care.
Thank you.